Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Mangled Eagle, and here's her story. There are so many narcissists in my family and incidences of abuse towards me that it could honestly fill a novel. So condensing this is going to be a challenge. I'm providing only a brief overview of each narcissist, mainly so that I can better illustrate the impact on me as a whole. I could have chosen to concentrate solely on my mother and still have enough scarred for life material from her, but I believe that the lasting damage comes from the teamwork of the nest of vipers and their enablers. I feel like I was taken down by a rabid pack of hyenas. My mother was grossly obese. Her top weight was 330 and was also a hoarder. The house was kept mostly in check when my father was alive, but when he died when I was 19, she had no external controls and really went to town. Some of what she hoarded was useful. I was able to use the storage of paper towels she had amassed for years after her death 6 years ago, but most of it wasn't. Yeah, the stuff they hoard is crazy. My mother was a laundry detergent and kitty litter hoarder. The running joke would be ShopRite's on the phone. They want to know if they can borrow a couple pallets of kitty litter. They're out. But it wasn't. And also all collected dust, which I'm allergic to. She point blank refused to throw anything out. A good example of her level of unreasonableness on this issue is when I tried to throw out some old dolls and she hemmed and hawed about maybe giving them to charity. These dolls were at least 30 years old and caked in dust. They always have, listen, the hoarder always has a plan for every piece of fucking garbage or a scenario where it might be useful. That's just what they do. It's part of the control. You got to understand. Hoarding is narcissism. It's control through narcissism. It's me. It's another form, to me, it's another extreme form of borderline personality disorder. And she was talking about giving them to needy children. They were clearly health hazards, but ultimately she refused to part with them for any reason, including charity. But that shows her thought process, totally dysfunctional. She had no career, no real marriage. My parents slept in separate rooms, didn't clean the house, fed us simple dinner from cans, and did not do much at all aside from eat, lay in bed, and read, and control my every move to the point where I had no life outside the home. She referred to this as protectiveness, but it was more about control. She tried to scare me all the time about bad things that could happen to me if I went anywhere, and would reference me being raped in a field somewhere. She told me not to go out on the porch and to collect the mail because it was too dangerous, while at the same time consistently being late to pick me up at school, thereby leaving me alone in a deserted parking lot for up to 45 minutes or so. When there was actual danger, she would be very relaxed about it, such as insisting on taking me to this one particular gas station where the attendant hassled me right in front of her. Instead of driving off or attacking him, she could be very aggressive when she wanted to be. She sat there and expected me to take it and told me later, if they aren't touching you, don't worry about it. Nice. My mother would invent danger where there was none, yet tried to train me out of my self-protective instincts when confronted with actual danger. She began taking me to therapy at a child study center when I was around 9. I suppose because I was beginning to manifest symptoms of trauma. Instead of realizing that the way I was being treated was causing my misery, she felt that I was the problem and that I was the one who needed fixing. We stopped going there when I was 11, 6th grade, because one of the therapists finally realized she was the problem. Yeah, that's the way it happens. Once the therapist calls them out, they're done with that therapist. During the session, the therapist asked me about my week and how I was getting along. I told her about the latest fight, i.e. bullying, my mother was subjecting me to. My mother had insisted on me wearing a particular shirt to school for no practical reason other than inflicting her will on me. I was in 6th grade and more than old enough to dress myself. The shirt I wanted to wear was not inappropriate or in any way, nor was it wrong for the weather. It in the mid-'80s, all the kids' clothing was modest and the slutty stuff had not even come out yet, and everything in my closet was approved of and paid for by her. Literally, the only reason she wanted me to wear one shirt versus another was to break my will. My mother used to do this to me. My mother used to do this, used to dress me like you couldn't even dress yourself. And you're right, it's all about enforcing your will. So every time you look down at that shirt, you know your mother put it there. I gave in to her a lot, but this time I battled it out, and she ended up taking me to school in the shirt I wanted to wear because I would have been late otherwise. But when I came home from school that day, which was Friday, she told me what my punishment for disobedience was going to be. I was going to wear the shirt she wanted me to wear every day next week. That's right. I didn't wear it Yep, that's right. Since I didn't wear it one day, I was going to wear the damn thing all week. When I told the therapist about our fight and my punishment, she looked aghast and said, you must have misunderstood. I said politely, you can ask my mom for yourself. She called my mom in front of the lobby, and my mother confirmed that was indeed what happened, that I would be forced to wear the shirt for a week. Then the therapist told her, your daughter is going to go on drugs if you don't stop. We had not spoken of drugs at all, and they never did. And I never did them as a child or as an adult. I think she was trying to shock some sense into my mother with a bold statement. And the doctors used to tell my mother that too, that I was going to end up on drugs. But my mother used it as like, oh, well, see, now you're going to be a drug addict. Yeah, that never happened. Anyway, my mother took me out of there, and I never went back to therapy again because she said they gave you permission to use drugs. Of course, the real reason we stopped going is because they stopped being her dupes and flying monkeys and actually tried to hold her accountable. Yeah, when you try to hold the narcissist accountable, they bail. They bail. When an authority figure tries to hold the narcissist accountable, the narcissist runs. It's what my wife did every time a therapist told her you need to let your daughter talk to her father. 4 therapists later until she found one. Until she found one coaching my daughter's Little League team. This is what they do. My mother, as crazy as she was, a queen bee and capable of manipulating people quite well, was always getting preferred service wherever she went and getting her own way always. She was not truly social, but very gregarious and not used to being told no or that she was wrong. My father was as bad as my mother, violent, hair-triggered, constantly going into bitter tirades over petty humiliations, i.e. someone walking past him and ignoring him when my father tried to say hello. He once filled in a check incorrectly while trying to pay for something in the store, and embarrassed him so badly he refused to ever write another check. When I was young as elementary school, he would rage over how he wished he were dead right in front of me. He would say that if he could press a button and die and God wouldn't punish him, he would do it. That's probably because, not that it's right, but I'm sure that's what your mother made him feel like, living with that fucking borderline psychopath. He did this right in front of me, in fact had zero regard as to how his behavior would impact me. He was never attuned to me and thought only of himself and cared only about his own feelings. One time he left me out in the car in August for a long time when he went into a hardware store, only to be surprised when he came out and I was I was in the car. He had completely forgotten he had taken me with him. He would pace the house talking to himself, sometimes heatedly arguing. He was clearly mentally ill, although never diagnosed, but his son from his first marriage, he was diagnosed schizophrenic and did some time in a mental hospital. I never felt cared about or safe when with him. He would take me to the donut shop when I was around 6 or 7, and his friends would whistle and holler when I walked in, making me very shy and uncomfortable. But either he didn't notice or didn't care and would not stop them. I finally told him I didn't want to go anymore, and he said okay and kept going while leaving me home. He actually wanted to talk to those men after how they treated me and made me feel. There was no protection from him at all. Want to know why? Because your father's a hanger-on in life. He's a hanger-on in the marriage. He's a hanger-on with his friends, and that's why he walks around ranting, because he fucking hates himself. He sounds like he's a lot like my brother, where his friends are the most important thing in his life, and no matter what his friends do, his friends can do no wrong. It's because he's a hanger-on. Doesn't have a real friend. Nobody actually likes him. Everybody uses him in his life. He's a hanger-on to any group he's in. Instead of taking me somewhere else where I would feel comfortable, his solution was to leave me at home and keep going with his routines. Right, because his friends are more important than you. When I was a teenager, he pinned me down on my bed and threatened to mess up that face I was so proud of. He taunted me, "Do you believe I'll do it?" And he wouldn't let up until I said yes. He acted like I was haughty or ahead of myself when I refused to answer the front door in a nightgown. This was after puberty. So those were my two main influences, as I have no siblings. Just trapped me in a house with those two. Still, I have some extended family that managed to do me incredible harm as well. I will describe them very briefly, although I could fill pages describing their abuse. My mother's primary flying monkey was her aunt, who was quite old but had no maturity or wisdom. When my mother would abuse me, including lashing me with a strap in a hotel room when we were all on vacation, her aunt, my great aunt, would be disgusted with me as though I had caused the problem. My mother's willfulness was constantly defended and enabled by my great aunt, and I was treated as wrong no matter what I did. When I was very young, I would go visit her at her apartment a few blocks from my house, and I have no majorly bad memories of poor treatment in the earliest years. I think the ugliness really began when my great-aunt's mother died, and my great-aunt responded with guilt that she had been spending too much time with me that she could have spent with her mother. I was only at her house on Saturdays. I can't really understand the thought process of being vindictive to a child for time spent with them. I mean, everybody's mother dies, but normal people don't blame the children in the family for it in any way. Narcissists do. Look, they're going to blame you for anything and everything. Anything you can be blamed for, you're going to be blamed for. It's just the way it is. And understand, hoarders don't come in a vacuum. Usually there's a long line of hoarders and other bullshit going on in the family. It's just another part of the cycle of narcissism that needs to be broken. That's all it is. So I fell out of whatever favor I ever had with her at that point when I was around 7. When I was 10, my younger cousin, then 5, came to live with my great aunt. And at that point, he became the golden child, while she treated me with open hostility. When we were all older, my cousin would ask my aunt if I would be accompanying them on certain trips and outings, and my aunt's responses were, yes, unfortunately. Even still, my great aunt was nowhere near as bad as my cousin and her husband, both of them my mother's age. I grew up calling my cousin aunt because of the age difference, and in fact, I think I knew that she wasn't even my actual aunt. I don't think I even knew that she wasn't even my actual aunt until I was in middle school or something. So I think of her as an aunt. The only word I can use for her is evil. She's either an extreme narcissist, much more so than my mother, or an actual psychopath. She and her daughter, son, and husband constantly deflect blame for everything. They are never wrong, and it's always someone else's fault. So naturally, they require a scapegoat to be wrong, since they never are. Guess who the scapegoat was? They chose a religion, Mormonism, that enables their self-righteousness. I grew up in the church too, although leaving at 15, and I can attest it is an actual cult. More Mormons, huh? I will give one brief... I'm going to have to bring this up the next time the Mormon missionaries come knocking on my door. The kids in the white shirts and ties. They come around. I like to talk to them. You know, I like to talk to them. I just like to know where their heads are at. I'm going to have to talk to them about that. Like, how come so many Mormons are leaving the church? And see what they have to say. I will give one brief example of her blaming and deflecting onto me something that had nothing to do with me. When her 18-year-old daughter got pregnant, there's no sex before marriage in that church, she solemnly and self-righteously announced the news to me on the phone. I was 12 at the time. Then asked me coldly and with incredible contempt, "Are you mature enough not to tell anyone?" She's telling you so she can blame you for it getting out. That's why she's telling you. So she can make the issue about you telling everybody and not about her daughter actually getting pregnant. Really, you should have heard her. The way she was talking to me, it was though I had done something wrong. She wanted you. She was goading you to tell so she could attack you. Now, whether you did or not is another story. Okay, but I'm letting you know that's what her intent is here. But she and her daughter and her church are never wrong, so I had to absorb the aggression. It was especially ridiculous because she already knew I didn't tell outsiders anything, including the way I was treated or the condition of my hoarder house. She dumped her nastiness all over me in this way continually, whenever she encountered stress or fault, since she had to contain fault somewhere outside herself. I was the compost heap. Her husband is from Mexico and highly authoritarian, literally ordering the family around during meals. The Mormon church allows him full reign in his patriarchy on steroids. And you know something? This is something I'm noticing about the Mormons, and it's real dangerous. They like to go into these third world cultures. They like to go into these third world cultures, convert and marry and bring people back. And you're going to continue to do this with the power giving these bravado, some of these male bravado cultures where women are treated like shit. Okay, this newfound religion, okay, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. The guy Trump just got out of Venezuela, he was a Mormon. Down there converting people, married a woman, brought her back, and then he got a little taste of socialism. But this is what the Mormon church does. And it can be dangerous because when you go into third world countries with this religion, which is a lot of people feel is a cult, you know, narcissists use religion as a power move anyway. And now you're going into a third world culture with male bravado where women are not respected and giving them a newfound religious authority. Woo. He's a control freak with zero empathy. Both of them are master liars, although they will extol the virtues of honesty. When growing up, this aunt would tell me about a cousin of mine in another state who was supposedly so picky about her clothes that she only wore one acceptable outfit when she was 16, washing it every night and ironing it for the next day. Well, a couple years ago, I actually talked to this cousin about things that were said about her, and she said no way she would have ever worn the same outfit 2 days in a row, let alone for an entire year. Lies like that, just bizarre lies designed to make someone look crazy or weird, were spread as gossip by this aunt. Character assassination, making other people look bad, weird, crazy to take the heat off her. Because my mother treated me so badly and allowed others to do the same, I was treated like absolute garbage by the family as a whole. But the really creepy thing is, and it's difficult to describe, is that this aunt and her daughter are extremely polite. They can slit your throat while smiling politely, and if you object, you are being rude and difficult. When I would object to their abuse, I was being difficult. I would alternate between standing up for myself and being a doormat. But there really was never any way to win. I always caught it either coming or going. I never moved away from home. My mother had stopped me. My mother had me so isolated and traumatized that it felt natural to slip into agoraphobia. By the time I was 15, I stopped going to school, to church, anywhere. Those were the days before social media, and my peers from school just never heard from me again. My parents became less aggressive with me after I became a shut-in. I think because of my individuation came to such a halt, and I became the unthreatening doll they wanted. You became another piece of hoarded furniture. That's what your narcissistic family turned you into. A piece of hoarded furniture. You allowed yourself to be included in the narcissist hoard. This went on for decades. I had a job in my mid-20s for a couple years, but it didn't bring me into contact with many people. And I just did my job and came home. I was also plenty busy with taking care of my mother throughout various hospital stays, physical rehab, and heart attacks, surgery. No life of my own, no independence. Exactly what she wanted. I was 37 when she finally died. But the year prior to that, she had me arrested with a felony charge of assault of an elderly person. Long story short, I struck her once in the face when she was pulling my head down by my hair, causing my neck to be at a dangerous angle. She drove to my Mormon aunt's house, and my aunt was more than happy to call the police and report it. My aunt used to work as a dispatcher, and she knows exactly what happens when the police get involved and what the consequences are. I tried to forget about the whole thing, although a Mormon bishop took the opportunity to come to my house and threaten me, telling me it's not your house anymore. When I told him to get out of my house, my mother got her circle to gang up on me for an assault that was really self-defense. I tried to forget about it. 7 months went by, and then one day a gang of police headed by a SWAT team member arrived on my front porch to collect me. It took a long time and $10,000 in attorney fees to get out of that, which I was able to do because my mother did not want me to go away to prison or be controlled by the police, as she considered that her job. I was very nervous and scared as I waited to be eligible for expunction. Yeah, you wanted it expunged. An expungement. Which eventually went through. The public can't see it, but the police department still can. This was very hard on me because I was and am so sheltered without a lot of contact with the world. Then one day I get cuffed and slammed in jail, and on one of the worst charges you can level at someone. Not so much for your religion, right? So much for your fucking Mormon, we love everybody, right? It's just vindictiveness. And this is all because you became nothing more than because you became part of the hoard. And just like a hoarded piece of furniture or garbage that the hoarder can't stand looking at, the second you try to take it out, the hoarder wants it back. And that's all you were, is another piece of hoarded furniture. It ate up a lot of my modest inheritance. I don't have much work experience on account of being agoraphobic for so long. So I was forced to get a shitty job bagging groceries at age 40. My mother's brother decided not to leave me any money, even though I had taken care of his sister for years. So when my mom died, he redid his will. My mom had been in his will, and he took her out and left me with nothing, totally unprotected in the world. Before he died, he badgered me to sell the small plot of land my mother left me. Although the market was down at the time, he actually called people who had expressed interest in buying it and told them I was desperate for money and would they please make an offer. Well, you can imagine the kind of offer they made me. I ended up selling it to someone else for somewhat more money than the people who knew I was desperate offered me. But I still sold it at a severe loss, especially since I guessed at the value of the land. I didn't have the money for a proper appraisal. So he forced me into that situation. Up until the last month or so of his life, he would call me, leaving rambling messages on my machine about his arthritis and how he was doing, not the least bit concerned about me. in his final message before he died, was, "Just calling to let you know that all is well." Interestingly, my Mormon aunt also ignored obvious signs of distress when I emailed her about serious problems I was having. Her email reply to me was, "I drove past your house last night and everything looked peaceful." At that point, I knew she didn't care, but I wanted to see what she would do, and that's what she did. She also swiped my mother's wedding and engagement rings from the hospital on my mother's deathbed, so I never got them, which I could have sold. I've spent the last few years using my modest resources to get a diagnosis for myself. I've had health problems and a mood disorder, which I'm sure I inherited from my father, and training for a career. I'm qualified to launch my own business in my field, but I have so little confidence in myself as a result of all this. My only saving grace has been a high IQ. I've been in treatment with medication for almost a year and a half, and many of my fears and phobias are lessening. I have so much less chemical social anxiety than I used to, although I still have trauma anxiety, if that makes any sense. But I don't have the resources to pursue a PTSD diagnosis at this time, although I'm sure I have it. Yeah, you absolutely have it. I got a job doing pet sitting and dog walking to tide me over until I can get an office and try to get clients, which terrifies me. I had a dog walking client meeting today, and the woman was a total bitch to me. She was upset that I have more experience with cats than dogs, and basically threatened me that she was very protective of her dog, that I had better get it right. And if anybody who's listen, you are walking dogs, you are ripe for dealing with narcissists, because go look at some of my narcissist and pet videos, red flags. Okay, this is what you're dealing with. You're going to deal with more people who want to control you. My biggest fear in life is that I won't be as competent at things as I wish to be. I think she read that weakness and attacked. I have been treated like crap so many times. There is an imprint on me now. I have no friends and family and never got married. Well, you couldn't. You were just a hoarded piece of furniture. When I fill out forms requiring an emergency contact, I have no one to put. I have a feral cat colony that I feed and very few shallow acquaintances. That's it. I'm terrified by how alone I am, and I feel targeted by bullies a lot. They can smell it. Get rid of the feral cats. You don't want to be crazy cat lady. You don't want to live in this. You don't want to continue this scenario. It's amazing what they did to me. I don't know how to build a life under these circumstances. My life is so cartoonishly bad that it's hard to even believe. My skill is problem solving, but I have found that most people prefer socializing and being entertained, and few people value blunt information and real change. I'm very good at getting the root of something, but my mother's shenanigans have always been more popular and better received. Everything I have been through, I am rarely charming and hardly charismatic. I'm quiet and beaten and invite more abuse. I used to blame myself for everything, but after my education in narcissism, I pretty much dislike and distrust people in general. I'm very transactional and continually seek distance from others, which I equate to safety. Mangled Eagle. You have to stop being part of your mother's hoard. You're keeping yourself in your mother's hoard after she's dead. You need to cut yourself off from all of these people. Everybody, the church, your aunts, they're evil, they're bad, and they're just using that cult religion to gain power. You need to figure out who you are, what you want in life, how to live outside of being just another piece of your mother's narcissistic hoard. So, I hope that helps. Thank you so much for your contribution and your story. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, or a Facebook live chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it growing, supported, and advancing, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from you guys. Without you, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been the Narcissistic Resistance.